Now to the latest and a very bizarre story that's breaking about the Notre Dame superstar linebacker Manti Te'o and whether or not he was a victim of a bizarre hoax. Josh has been tracking this overnight. We've been talking about this story all morning. It's pretty incredible.
When Deadspin first posted this yesterday afternoon, it was an absolute stunner. Elizabeth, of course, he was the star player whose heartbreaking loss of his girlfriend just before a big game made national headlines and made Manti Te'o the individual story of the college football season. But now it turns out his relationship was an elaborate hoax. Now we're going to hear from one of the Deadspin writers who uncovered this explosive story in just a moment. But first, take a look. Manti Te'o, the All-American linebacker at Notre Dame, was known not just for his big hits on the field, but for his big heart off of it. His story of overcoming the loss on the same day of his grandmother and then his girlfriend, Lene Kekua, foregoing Kekua's funeral to then play Michigan, only added to his growing legend.
How would you describe your emotions on the field tonight?
I mean, they were with me. I miss them.
The fame turned him into a contender for the Heisman, and the raw emotion humanized him.
She made me promise that she said, babe, if anything happens to me, you promise that you'll stay over there and that you'll play. And that, you'll honor me through the way you play.
This morning, Te'o and Notre Dame say that while the love and the tears were real, the girlfriend was not. And according to the sports website Deadspin, which broke the story, Lene Kekua was a hoax. And the picture we all saw of her was actually another woman who was very much alive and says she doesn't even know Te'o.
This was a very elaborate, very sophisticated hoax perpetrated for reasons we can't fully understand.
In a statement released overnight, Te'o wrote, quote, "To realize that I was the victim of what was apparently someone's sick joke and constant lies was and is painful and humiliating," end quote. During this fall's football season, the Notre Dame star talked often about the girlfriend he says he knew for years.
When you have somebody that you talk to every single day, that you sleep with on the phone because she's going through a lot of things, and all of a sudden it's silence. That silence really eats at you.
ESPN reporter Gene Wojciechowski interviewed Te'o in October.
If Manti Te'o was acting that day, then he deserves a half dozen Academy Awards for that performance.
I love each and every one of you.
Overnight, Notre Dame's athletic director said the school conducted an independent investigation and believes Te'o.
The thing I am most sad about is that the single most trusting human being I've ever met will never be able to trust in the same way again in his life.
And we're now joined by Timothy Burke, one of the two authors from the sports website Deadspin, who broke this story. What tipped you off to this story?
Well, we got an email last week that said there's something fishy about Lene Kekua, Manti Te'o's alleged girlfriend. You guys should check it out. We found different outlets reporting different days that she had died. We had stories, reporting that they had met in 2009, and when we now know from the South Bend Tribune reported today, and they said, Brian Te'o, Manti's father, is the one who told us that they met in 2009, and we now know that that's not true because they never met in person at all. And again, this long, you mentioned a year-long hoax. The big question this morning: why would this be perpetrated at all? That's a great question, Josh, and it's one of those questions that is so hard to answer. And you think about the amount of time and energy it would take to pull off this hoax, to be on the phone, to have someone be on the phone that wasn't his friend Ronaiah, because he would have recognized his voice, presumably, to send all of these messages, these letters that he supposedly sent her, or that she sent him before every football game. All of these things to pull this off. He would not have been able to have his own life because he would have been consumed being this fake woman who was Manti Te'o's girlfriend. And so that's why I think a lot of people are very suspicious when Te'o says that he had no idea and he was just the sucker in this. Because, why would somebody go to such great lengths to hoax him like this? As somebody who led this investigation, do you believe that Manti Te'o was not at all complicit in this hoax? I think that there are some questions about when he became aware of it. We expect to hear from Manti Te'o soon, perhaps as soon as today. What questions then for you do you need Manti Te'o to answer? I want to know if he told his father this made-up story about how they met in 2009. And I want to know about the story about how she used to visit him in Hawaii, if that was a Manti fabrication or if that's something that Brian Teo just made up to tell the press. It doesn't matter to me if Manti was the victim of a hoax or if he was in on it. I really just sort of want to know the truth about how the media came to report these things, because once the media reports something, it becomes part of the story, even if it's not true. So how did those things come about? Those are the questions I would want to ask Manti.
Yeah, part of the story in this case, perhaps part of the myth. Timothy Burke of the sports website Deadspin, which broke this story. We appreciate your time this morning.
Thanks, Josh.